It is Monday, September 23rd, 2024. This is another edition of Baseball Today, presented to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. That is my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan along for the ride as well. Forgive Plouffe. He is fighting through some technical
Oof.
gremlins that have crawled inside of his house today. But you look great. You sound great. Just smile. We're going to have a good time over the next 30 minutes.
Yeah, the main thing is I'm here and we're going to talk some ball. I don't know what's going on. Doesn't matter, Chris. The show's going to be great. A lot of good baseball to talk. You and I were just together in New
Yes.
Jersey. We took a flight home when you were up in first class. I was back there, with the common folk.
Yep.
And yeah, man, what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Does anybody here in the comments section raise your hand if you really believe that story that I was flying in first class and Plouffe was in row 33F? Anybody? Yeah, I thought he was a bullshit artist too. Nailed him. Let's get to it with a true, like a literal tip of the cap. Mets, they took a series against the Phillies this weekend. We'll talk about the wild card standings in just a minute. But good for Pete Alonso, right? This could possibly have been his final at bat ever at Citi Field as a New York Met. Had a chance to tip his cap, waved to the crowd. They gave him a standing ovation. Carl Ravitch talked all the way through it. I don't know why that part happened. Would have been nice to just hear the fans. But regardless, it was, listen, Carl does a great job. I thought we kind of missed an opportunity there. Anyway, I thought that was really, really nice and probably a little strange for Alonso, who's trying to help a team get to the wild card, and there's still a week left of games, and to maybe think about, oh my God, this could be my final time as a Met in my
Yeah,
stadium.
it was interesting because after the game, he said the umpire had to remind him, like, "Hey, they're cheering for you," like this, like that's. And I don't know if that's true or not. I think if you think about Pete Alonso, it might be true. Anyone else would kind of have that wherewithal, be like, "Hey, this could be my last game." But he was so locked in on the at bats, and they're in
Yeah.
such a tight postseason, race here, or at least the race to get to the postseason. I think he was just locked in. But it was cool. And you know what? I think you got to give credit to Mets fans,
Hmm.
who, by the way, like they were rocking all weekend at Citi Field. They did a great job, but I think I don't know if every fan base would have done that, but Mets fans have shown up this year. They're doing a good job.
Yep, they sure as heck have, and they've been rewarded handsomely by that team that has fought back when some moron declared them dead on arrival May 29th. But we're going to start over in the American League, where that playoff chase at the bottom of the wild card standings got turned on its head. Royals can't win. Same with Plouffe's Twins. Detroit cannot lose, and Seattle's sticking around with a week to go. Here are some sights and sounds from the Twins in Boston and the Tigers in Baltimore.
Here, though, and Hedrick coming in. Swings and drives this one high and deep. That one's back there sailing. Oh, my! It is gone! Tristan Casas, 3 home runs today.
Keep it down. Fly ball right field side. Carpenter back at the warning track, and Parker Meadows got over there. Again, Parker out of nowhere.
All right, so unfortunately, your Twins got swept in a double dip on Sunday, and the Detroit Tigers, they just keep zooming along, taking care of business at Camden Yards. So right now, the Royals and Tigers share the second wild card. Minnesota's a game back. Seattle is 2. Is there any way you don't see Detroit making it?
I think you'd kind of be foolish to bet against Detroit at this point. Obviously, there's a way that they don't make it. If you look at the schedule, it favors them though. They get the Rays. They end with the White Sox, who I believe they're 9-1 against, or they have a very good record, like most people do. By the way, only
Yeah.
36 wins on the freaking year for the White Sox. Um, is there a way that they don't make it? Yeah, it's like it's such a slim chance. So the way that they've been playing and kind of what's happened for them seems like it's sustainable. They've gotten pitching from everywhere. I believe they have a 2.7 ERA in the month of September, throwing a bunch of openers. Bullpen's been great. It doesn't matter who they've had to call on. They've gotten the job done on the pitching front. I was talking to Jake a little bit about this morning. It almost was like addition by subtraction for the Tigers. I think the biggest thing, and I say this not to be mean to the guy, but I think this really happened. I mean, getting Javi Baez out of that lineup kind of sparked things for them. It's, instead of having a guy that's been there, done that, paid, all these things, no sense of urgency necessarily. Now they got a bunch of kids who are just trying to prove themselves at the big level, and then all of a sudden they got in a role, and it gets contagious. So they've just been kind of firing on all facets. The defense has vastly improved. We saw Parker Meadows go up there. He's done that a couple times this year, Robin homers in a big time situation. If I was a betting man, Chris, I would put right now, I think the Twins and the Tigers in. And I don't really
Ooh.
believe in the Twins that much. It's just for the fact that they have the tiebreaker against everybody. That's the only reason I'm giving them the edge over the Royals. The Royals completely miss our guy Vinny. They've averaged 2.95 runs per game since he's gone down. The runners in scoring position has been really, really bad for them. I think things are starting to catch up with them. Again, I don't really believe in the Twins doing much. They don't have a what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have like a recipe for success. They really don't right now. But because they hold a tiebreaker, I'm going to put them in. I think the Tigers are pretty much a lock, though.
The answer is yes. They're a lock. They're getting in. They've won 8 of their last 9 series. The lone loss was to the San Diego Padres, who have been the best team in baseball, seemingly for the last 2.5 months. Their last 7 wins have come by 2 runs or less. That means that when it's crunch time, they're just fine. This weekend in Baltimore, you talked about Javi Baez not being in the lineup. Defensively, Sweeney, who came over from the Dodgers in that Flaherty deal, made a huge play that probably saved the game for them. They're going to be just fine. Kansas City is not fine. They've lost 7 in a row. Your team has won 11 of its last 33 games.
Who's your second team then?
I think Kansas City still somehow makes it.
Chris,
But they're on the road.
They got 2 L7 streaks in the month of September alone.
I hear you. And they're at Washington, which fine, but at Atlanta to finish it out, where those games with the Braves they could mean everything for the Atlanta Braves. Whereas Detroit's got Tampa and the White Sox, Minnesota's home against Miami, and then Baltimore. And Baltimore, that might not mean a damn thing this weekend.
So are you changing your answer now?
No, I think Detroit's going to finish the second wild card. I think Kansas City will finish the third. I think they're going to muster up. Yeah.
August 10th, not too long ago. Postseason percentage odds.
I know, 0.2. And now it's over 70 for Detroit. It's really crazy. An amazing story. It's an amazing story. I did pick them to win the division at the beginning of the year, and I was like, God, what a schmuck. And now here they might end up making the playoffs after all. Let's get to the National League, where the Mets are tied with Arizona for the second wild card, and they're 2 up on the Braves. Diamondbacks fighting for their playoff lives after blowing an 8-run lead in Milwaukee on Sunday.
And Hoskins right center down. Perkins in. Mitchell's in. We are tied. Rhys Hoskins comes through in the clutch.
Brian Anderson with the call there for the Brewers. They ended up getting an infield knock to take the lead. They slammed the door shut. This is one of those games where hopefully Arizona can just kind of wash it off. We're going to focus on the Mets and Braves because that series starts on Tuesday. So we're going to have a lot of time to talk about that tomorrow. Diamondbacks, in the meantime, begin a 6-game homestand with the Giants tonight. Then they finish with San Diego. Are you worried at all about the defending National League champs not making it?
I'm actually not that worried about them not making it, just because of the fact that the Braves and the Mets are playing each other. So that's a big series right there, and for them to go and lock heads is advantageous to the D-backs. And the D-backs have actually done well against the Padres and the Giants. I believe they're 5-5 against the Padres, 6-4 against the Giants. Now the Giants aren't playing for anything, but they still have really good players. Like Matt Chapman's like going off right now. Blake Snell over his last 14 starts is crazy. We know that. I'm not worried. The only thing I'm worried about with the Diamondbacks is Gabby Moreno came out of the game with like a left adductor. And I've done my adductor before, and it's not fun, Chris, and you really can't do anything. That's like your groin. And for a catcher, you understand how important that would be. So that would be a pretty big loss for them. But as far as like making the playoffs, I'm not too worried about that, just because of where this series will end up for Atlanta or New York. Like if Atlanta goes and loses this series against The Mets, their season's essentially done. So
Right.
I
So
I I I have the Diamondbacks in the playoffs.
yeah, I think they're going to be okay. They had actually won 4 in a row before Sunday's disaster. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they'll take that, winning 4 out of 5 at this time of year. The Giants can be tricky, right? It's been a bad season for them. I think they
Yeah.
felt like they were going to be playing for wild card berth this last week of the year, and it just hasn't happened. But they have enough veterans on that team guiding a really young team where I think that they could give them some problems. They do have to face Logan Webb on Tuesday. They get Birdsong tonight. At times, he has been very, very good. Here's the only thing I want to put in the back of your brain. The Diamondbacks lose the tiebreaker to both Atlanta and the Mets, and they're currently tied with San Diego. So they haven't played the Padres since the first week of July. That is a totally different team since then.
It is a different team.
So if things get a little squirrely and it comes down to those last 2 games and the Diamondbacks fall back into a tie, it just, man,
I'm just trying to think what the
rough
Braves
go.
have to do. I mean, they're 2 games. They're 2 games. I understand the Braves have the tiebreaker, but are the Diamondbacks? I mean, they'd have to lose both series essentially, I
Well,
think.
right, but that's the point. If the Diamondbacks, let's say, lose tonight and tomorrow, and let's say they lose 2 out of 3 to the Giants, and let's say the Braves take 2 out of 3 against the Mets, so they will have made up a game that it's just like I said, then you could get down to playing tiebreakers over the weekend. You don't want to do that. I think the Diamondbacks will be fine.
I think so too.
I think. But then again, I'm not 100% sure. All right. Sometimes things get busy toward the end of September, beginning of October. You're running late. You have no time for breakfast. You're starving. We have all been there. Well, you could be racing to meetings. You could be going to practice, school pickups, whatever it is. But what if a delicious, nutritious meal could be ready in seconds? That's where today's sponsor, Huel, the world's #1 complete nutrition brand, comes into play. With over 400 million meals sold worldwide. Yes, you heard me. 400 million. Huel is trusted by millions of people looking to fuel their days with convenient, complete nutrition. Designed by experts to provide all the nutrients your body needs from a meal, Huel takes the guesswork out of healthy eating and tastes delicious. Huel shakes actually taste like milkshakes. They come in delicious chocolate or vanilla. And bonus here, they're very low in sugar. I had one the other day before I had my flight to the East Coast. I hadn't had anything in my body, filled me up. Usually I'm like a grouch going through the airport if I haven't eaten, but I was like strutting, happy, feeling good after I just had my delicious Huel chocolate shake. So try it for yourself with our exclusive offer. You're going to get 15% off with the code today at Huel.com. That's 15% off HUEL.com. Use that code today. Unlock a healthier, easier way to eat with Huel, nutritionally complete meals in minutes so you can focus on what really matters. Time for us right now to focus on somebody losing their job. I hate doing this. David Bell, fired after 6 seasons at the helm of the Cincinnati Reds. He will be replaced on an interim level by Freddie Benavides for the last week of the season. Surprised?
I don't think I'm surprised. They've been pretty stagnant for quite some time. There was, I think last year when they went on that run and everyone had Reds fever, kind of set some expectations up, and they came into the season, feeling pretty good. You looked at the overall roster, and you're like, okay, like if a few guys in the pitching staff step up here and there, like we can look at, a run in the NL Central. It just hasn't happened for them, and a lot of times when stuff like that happens and you haven't had a winning track record, the first guy to go is the manager. Do I agree with that all the time? No. But that's just kind of the way the game plays. I mean, the Reds have been, they've been disappointing, Chris. I mean, a lot of it comes from injuries. McLean not being there. You could talk about Noelvi Marte missing for PED. They've had a lot of injuries to the pitching staff. When the pitching staff was healthy, they're actually doing pretty dang good. They've had a couple bright spots in there on their roster. Hunter Green has really established himself this year, although I think he just went on the IL with like elbow stuff, so his season's done. Not a big deal. Had a great season. Elliot the Cruz has obviously established himself as one of the better players in the league, but everything else besides that was kind of ho hum. So they were disappointing. I think a lot of people had high expectations, but because of injuries, because of some underperformance, because of PEDs, we're looking at a team finishing under 500, fourth in the NL Central. It's just when stuff like that happens, when it all happens at once. And again, like I said, you don't have the track record. I don't know, when was the last time they made the playoffs in a full season? It's been 10 years.
Yeah, I think it was 2012. They made it in
So,
the COVID season, and they got
yes.
bounced quickly. He's almost 50 games under 500 in almost 6 full seasons, and that's not good enough. So the easy thing is changing the manager. This team has to change a lot more than that. I'm going to be honest
Yes.
with you. I'm sick of hearing the bullshit injury excuse. Stop that. That's it. No.
No,
Don't
I
say
get that. I mean, that's not always an excuse. I mean, that's a reason. Every team has to deal with it some more than others. I think Matt McClain for them was massive.
right. It is massive. That's a bad injury for them. You know what? We were told this is the best young core in baseball. They're all coming. We got excited because of the second half of last season, and I think it stinks. I really do. I think it stinks. They have to do better organizationally. Go get better leaders. Go get some more veterans that can come in and help out. Jamer Candelario, I thought that was a really good signing for 3 years and whatever it is, $45 million. Not good enough. Excuse me. Let me give you a little bit of taste of this. The following players that were supposed to be counted on this season with a WAR of 0.5 or a negative WAR. That makes you very replaceable. Friedel, Fraley. The negative guys, Encarnacio Strand, Marte, Will Benson, Jamer Candelario. Now, I know that some of those WAR can be a counting stat, right? You add more based on the number of games you play, and so Friedel and Fraley missed some time, so I get that. Their numbers maybe would have been a little bit higher. This team was disappointing. Offensively, you did not carry the luggage at all. The first half of the year, I thought the pitching was spot on, even though they didn't have their full complement of guys that they thought they were going to go to battle with. But enough with the excuses. I don't know if bringing Skip Schumacher in can totally overhaul this thing. They have to be more aggressive on the trade front, figure out which guys you can't live without, and go make some moves. But I'm sick of hearing this other stuff. Well, we didn't have that guy. We didn't have this guy. That's BS, man. Go look at the team 276 miles north on I-71. Go and look at them in Northeast Ohio. They got 2 starts from Shane Bieber this year. They got nothing from Tristan McKenzie. They got a half year from Gavin Williams. Those were guys they were supposed to count on. They're winning 90-plus games and competing for the top seed in the American League. So don't give me that stuff. You can go do it. Go find people that want to buy into the Cincinnati Reds. I'll see you next year in 2025. Can you tell which person picked the Reds to win the NL Central on this show today?
You were all about the young teams this year.
I was, and I screwed that up.
I get it, Chris, and I love that you mentioned the Guardians. I think that is the main point here is, as an organization, they just have not been good enough. It's not specifically this roster. It's not specifically David Bell. It's all encompassing there, and starts with the ownership, which we've heard a lot about.
Yeah,
they just haven't been good enough.
Have not been good enough. All right, I'm wearing a Washington Nationals cap today because this is a strange story. C.J. Abrams, their lone all-star this year, was sent down to the minor leagues for non-performance reasons. Dave Martinez, Mike Rizzo would not get into true specifics, but they said it had nothing to do with his on-field play.
Get into specifics, then. You know what it is.
There was a report that Abrams was out to a casino in Chicago until 8 a.m. with an afternoon game just hours away at Wrigley Field. Are you A, impressed with the organization for taking a tough stance, or B, wondering why they didn't leave a man alone because he's an adult making adult decisions?
I think it's more complex than that. I think this is a really complex issue. I don't think it's A or B, Chris, and that's my final answer. Okay, let me explain why. All right. I do believe there's more to the story. I don't think it was, hey, he was out till 8 on a day game. I think that, and this has kind of been going around the internet. I'm just assuming there's been more than this. I'm assuming that he's had some more late nights out, and if that's the case, and maybe he has a problem, because when you listen to Davey Martinez talk, it's like, we're going to help this guy get through this, and so maybe there's more going on. And if that's the case, then hey, get your help, do what you got to do. You have obviously a very bright future ahead of you if you can figure some things out. I do have a problem, though, Chris, with how they handled it, because look, we're talking about this now. Everybody's talking about this now. And clearly this guy is part of their future. If you wanted to make an example out of him and show like, hey, as an organization, we don't really stand for this. We want to, be buttoned up more than this. We want to make sure we're prepared. You want to set an example in front of Dylan Cruz and James Wood and all these guys that are coming up. I get that, but I just think they could have done it differently. Put them on the Phantom IL, tell them your season's done, have a team meeting about it. But they keep saying, hey, we're not going to talk about it. We're going to handle it internally. You didn't handle it internally the minute that you optioned him. So if you really wanted to help this guy out, handle it internally, you could have went about it a different way. I'm not excusing CJ Abrams and saying, hey, it's okay to be out until 8 a.m. before a day game. I am saying that does happen from time to time. And if he was performing better, is this a story at all? Like if he was out there performing, was this a story? So now the reason I say that, Chris, is because you set a precedent now. You can't be out. We're going to be watching what you do off the field. You can't be out doing that. Well, what happens if next year Dylan Cruz has an 850 OPS and he's out at the casino at 8 a.m.? Is he going to get sent out? I don't think so. And listen, let me finish before you talk.
Yeah.
This is like a debate round. Let me finish.
Let's go.
Some of the most famous stories in baseball history: Wade Boggs, 50 million beers cross flight, across a national flight. Yeah. We laugh about that because why? Because he's a stud and rakes, and it was like, oh my gosh, he drinks all his beer and shows up and does his job. If you do your job, no one is going to be talking about anything off the field. The fact that he wasn't getting the job done is why this happened. I just don't think it was the right precedent to be set. That's all I'm saying. I don't agree with being out until 8 a.m. before a day game. I don't think that's the right thing to do. It does happen from time to time. It's a 162 game season. This isn't like the NFL where they put guys in a hotel before each of their 17 or 18 games, whatever it is they play. It's 162 games. And I will ask people this: does your employer know where you're at before you go to work? They don't.
Nope. They don't.
As long as you get the job done, no one should really care. He wasn't getting the job done. That's why this happened. I just think they should have handled it differently.
And it's not shocking that this is the way they handled it. I think they've mishandled a lot of stuff over the years, whether it was the way that Steven Strasburg was allowed to talk to the media or not. We've had some things in Washington go awry, and this is another case. You nailed it. They just should have put him on the Phantom IL. They should have fined him if that's what they wanted to do. I don't know who the leaders are in that clubhouse. I'm not around them. I haven't seen them one day. All I know is they're an extremely young roster. Go look at the number of guys who are 25 and younger on that roster, including CJ Abrams. So somebody needs to take over, right? Somebody needs to pull him aside and just say, even if you want to be selfish, just for yourself, because you are a kid that could earn $100 million in this game. He's that talented, right? First half of the year, we were like, wow, CJ Abrams has really turned it on. Don't cost yourself. And then, by the way, look around this clubhouse. We have a lot of people that are relying on you and your talent. So do it for yourself. Do it for the other dudes. Do it for the organization. It's better to be a beacon for the city than to be a dim light. All that stuff. But man, oh man, let's not point fingers and say, oh, he was out at 8 a.m. He was out at 8 a.m. I've been out till 6 a.m. and showed up and done my job the next day. Not lately. Not my age.
No, you don't. You sleep really early. Yeah. I try to keep you out sometimes.
I know.
So they did say this wasn't performance based, right?
Yes, 100%.
That is the thing that I don't like about this. You could say it's performance based, but next time somebody takes a picture of one of your players out too late, what are you going to do?
What's the cutoff time? Is it 3:30 a.m.?
That's
a day game? And, like what? Where are we drawing the line?
And I don't know if we have the audio if we can get it up, but Keith Hernandez and Ron Darling talking about it on the Mets was awesome. He goes, I could see 4 a.m., but 8 a.m. is too much. I
mean, yes. Go read the book on the 86 Mets that Jeff Pearlman wrote about them.
And I do want to remind people, there is no curfew.
Yeah, right.
I've never heard of a big league team having a curfew, ever. So, like, again, it's does your employer check where you're at before you show up to work? I don't think anyone's does.
No, nor should they.
They can do whatever they want as an organization. All I'm saying is they handled it poorly.
Yep. E. Washington on the play. And by the way, the thing you said at the beginning is the most important thing. If C.J. Abrams needs any sort of help, whether it's because of a gambling issue or a social issue or whatever it is, they need to help support him.
Yeah.
They need to help support him. I hope
Yes.
I hope this was just a bad decision-making night on his part. And that's it. If
Are you
it's something-
curious? Like, this is kind of like, again, if this is a super serious issue, I understand. I don't
Yes,
want
I'm
to
curious.
I don't want to. Yeah. What was he up? Was he down?
I mean, there was one there was one meme out there that said he's down 180 grand. I mean, he's on the minimum. 180 grand.
That's a little too much there.
That's a little too much, even if you're making like Bryce Harper money. Like, that's still too much.
That's like what you bet.
Nah, I try to find the cheapest blackjack table. I can't find them anymore now.
There's no such thing as a cheap blackjack table.
I told you before that we had during Best Damn, we took the show to Vegas one time, and Vince Carter was a guest. And I saw him later that afternoon after we were done taping. I saw him sitting at one of the tables. I put my hand on his shoulder. His security guy ripped it off. And Vince turned and he goes, "Oh, no, it's okay." And Vince is sitting at a $15 table.
Love that.
I was like, Vince.
Love that.
But he was playing multiple hands. This episode of Baseball Today is brought to you by Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. MLB postseason, 1 week away. What does that mean? It's time to explore all those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yeah, we're talking about your baseball's rival cities with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more available on Booking.com. You might just find the perfect stay for this postseason, even in your baseball rival city. I can tell you from experience, it is great going to a playoff game. It is amazing going and seeing your team compete on the road. It is the chef's kiss when your team wins a road playoff game and you're one of like 100 people in the stands that is going, "Hell yes, MFer, I love this." I did it in 2016, obviously covering the World Series when my then Cleveland Indians were at Wrigley Field for the first World Series game at that venue since 1945. They won 2 of the 3 games in Chicago. It was an amazing feeling. Not going to talk about how the rest of the series went, but as far as a road playoff experience, it was as memorable as it gets. So no matter what team you're rooting for this postseason, Booking.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city. From hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts to cute bed and breakfast stays, Booking.com has so many choices across this great country. So the right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com and download the Booking.com app today. Before we get out of here, speaking of teams on the move, half the squads are probably making their final road trips this week. So what does that mean? Dress up time for the rookies. We saw some good stuff. Willy Wonka. I mean, this was amazing by the Giants, right?
It's awesome. All the Oompa Loompas. So good.
That's really, really good. Yay. Yay. That's cute. How about Jackson Holiday and the O's getting dressed up not only as Peter Pan, but having to walk through the train station in front of all these people? Did you ever have to do that?
I did. I had to do it twice because I didn't get rid of my rookie status my first year. So they would always drop us off, a mile from the hotel and make us walk the rest of the way. It's back in the day, the costumes were a little bit worse. These are actually like, I wasn't expecting Major League Baseball to have little outfits like that anymore. I thought that was kind of like against the rules, but I like it. I think it's good. I feel like you need to go through that. It's a rite of passage, all those good things.
Yeah, people that are complaining about that, like, come on. It's just, this is fun. And how about Shota and his translator having to dress up as Slinky from Toy Story?
That's good.
How great is that?
Have them together is good. I like that.
Oh, that is adorable. That's great. And I bet you Shota loved every freaking minute of that. That's awesome. Good stuff. All right, we're off to a good, strong start. Can't wait to start breaking down some big-time series. You got Padres and Dodgers starting on Tuesday. You've got the Braves and the Mets, obviously. Seattle and Houston coming up. One last shot for the Mariners to maybe stick around in the postseason party. Few teams are on the cusp of clinching as well. We'll be having the Champagne Dream celebration throughout all of the shows this week. For our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke, and the uber-talented Trevor Plouffe, who made it through the technical gremlins. I am Chris Rose. We will see you Tuesday here on Baseball Today, presented to you by Booking.com.